Mason here. 100 days, 100 thoughts. It's the Nave Law countdown to 2026 Syracuse football. Here's Brian.
And Nave Law countdown, 12 days remaining to Orange kickoff, which means you are down now to less than 7, because we'll probably have done it by this point 1 week from now. You're less than a week out left in your time to register for a chance at 5. Oh, really good seats. They're on the 50. Oh, yeah, they're on the 50. Right behind the orange bench. Great seats, courtesy of Nave Law. You register. We will draw the winner during the show a week from today when we're live in the 315 next Monday. The QR code is on the screen to get to where you need to go. Link in the bio. Wherever you are, go just click on the link tree from my bio. It will get you where you need to go. And boom, link is in the chat. Link is in the chat. Yeah, we're south of a fortnight now, people. Like, we don't have a fort anymore. We're just counting by nights. No longer counting by forts. Yeah, it's all Ed O'Bannon's fault. I don't know. Why does Charles O'Bannon? What was Charles doing when Ed was filing the lawsuits? Where was Charles O'Bannon in all of this? Suspiciously absent, if you ask me. Somebody needs to look into what Charles O'Bannon has been up to. It's all Ed. Where the hell was Charles? What in the world is Charles doing? Is he hanging out with Tyus Edney? A lot of questions, UCLA. A lot of questions. Ryan missed the whole show. I got great news, Ryan. You can just watch it again later. You missed a lot of litigation talk. And right now, the thing that nobody wants to miss. The thing that nobody ever wants to miss. Talking about Boston College football. Yes, Boston College football. Oh, we love Boston College football. Is there any more nondescript team than Boston College football right now? Which, Mark, to your point, makes it even more shocking. For as good as year 1 was, and as bad as year 2 was, Fran, in the 2 teams that he plays every year, is 0-4 against Boston College and Pittsburgh. 0-4 against Boston College and Pittsburgh. Your best team got its teeth kicked in by Pittsburgh in that crazy McCord first-half interception fest. And then a couple weeks later, somehow lost to BC. The defense just imploded that game. Absolutely imploded that game, and they lost. Last year, I'm told Syracuse played both Pitt and Boston College, and I try to think about it as little as absolutely possible because it was all the BC game was so late. Was the BC game the last game of the season last year? Yeah, it was the finale last year, and it was just misery. That game happened. I'm told it happened. What was the score of that game last year? It was just so bad. Boston College, results from last year. BC won that game 34-12. Wow. Boston College going into that game last year had lost. Here's Boston College's season last year. BC started their season last year playing Fordham. The 7 blocks of granite were not eligible due to the fact that they've all been dead for quite some time. But BC beat Fordham 66-10. Then BC, in a row, played Michigan State, Stanford, Cal, Pitt, Clemson, UConn, Louisville, Notre Dame, SMU, and Georgia Tech. That's 10 games in a row, and they lost all 10 of those games. And in most of those games, they got punched in the face. And then they arrived at the season finale, in which they arrived with a 10-game losing streak. And Syracuse was riding, what were they on, a 7-game losing streak at that point? So it was a very compelling game in the most CW game of all time. And BC won it 34-12. I have put that game so far out of my memory. I don't remember. Like, the Notre Dame game was the week before that, right? We're like, great, there's one more. I don't remember that game to save my life, your life, anybody else's life. Syracuse had the lead. Let's see. Let's look back. Luca Lombardo had a 30-yard field goal for Boston College. Trip Woody connected from 49 yards out. out in Boston to tie it at 3, then Tripp at a 29-yard field goal. Syracuse had the lead. This is late in the first half. Then Lombardo kicked a field goal. That game was 6-6 at halftime. Compelling. And then Syracuse gave up 4 consecutive touchdowns to fall down 34-6 before Dan Villari scored a rushing touchdown very late in the game. Man, that was a long time. I don't remember. Thank goodness I don't remember. Joe Filardi threw for 65 yards that day. Spectacular outing. Turbo Richard, BC's running back who since transferred, ran up, around, over, and through Syracuse that day. But this is how bad it was. BC had lost 10 games in a row. 10. And not just beat Syracuse. They blew them out, and in the second half, they ripped their limbs off and pummeled them. Like, it was really, 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 really bad. Really bad last year against BC. So, but again, I put that's all on Syracuse, though. Syracuse was so checked out of last season, that's all on Syracuse. That was a nothing to do with BC. BC's in a weird spot, though, right? This is going to be Bill O'Brien, and it's easy to forget he's there because of the nothingness he's accomplished here. This is going to be Bill O'Brien's 3rd year as head coach of Boston College. And when they hired him, I'm like, wow, look at that. Because think what you want about Bill O'Brien, and people have a lot of Bill O'Brien opinions. He has been a successful head coach. Like, he took the Penn State job after the Joe Paterno end, without relitigating all of that. And he took a program that was on the verge of ceasing to be, damn near, and got its moorings back before they handed it over to James Franklin and won a lot of games. But he got it settled. And then he got the Houston Texans job, and as much as it ended kind of weird there, Bill did a very nice, like, he made the playoffs a bunch of times. Now, they always lost that Saturday afternoon game, but he made the playoffs a bunch. And then, he had Deshaun Watson, and then things got a little weird at the end of the Deshaun Watson experience. But realistically, based on what's happened since, I think I'm going to put a lot more of that on Deshaun Watson than on Bill O'Brien. Then Bill kind of, he was been and has been in the Belichick and Saban world, so prior to that, so like he and his bestie Doug Marrone were down in Alabama and this, that, and whatever. So he's a New England guy. He takes the BC job. I'm like, wow, that's an interesting hire. That's an interesting hire for Boston College because he has succeeded. And then his first year, they go 7-6 and make a bowl game. I'm like, okay. Now, there was some weird stuff going on. Remember, the Cuse game that year is when basically Thomas Castellanos got expelled from the program, like, in the middle of the game. It was beyond bizarre. And then, they switched quarterbacks and whatever. But then it all falls apart last year. We always talk NIL and what does Syracuse have and this and that. BC's got nothing. They just are not, despite being there in Boston, BC's got nothing when it comes to NIL. Absolutely nothing. They don't have big money people. They don't have a volume of people. There's just not enough people that care about it that are going to fork over realistically to win in football in this day and age. BC had its best players, not that there was a lot of them, but their best players basically on money. From all I said, this wasn't a hate Bill O'Brien got to get out of Dodge thing. It's my understanding. Like, hey, if you're good at BC, we can't pay you, and they leave. Like, their quarterback situation is, I don't even know what's going on there this year. Like, it's all new guys essentially from last year. Who knows? Like, Syracuse will be playing them in the second to last week of the season, so who knows what's going to end up there till now. Yeah, the Castellanos situation is wild. Like, Thomas Castellanos, who frankly is a terrible quarterback. He just kind of scoots around. Randomly was at Florida State last year for a minute, and he's now trying to get another year of eligibility and might end up at Texas Tech, who lost their quarterback because he couldn't stop gambling. College sports in 2026 are beyond bizarre. That's where we're going with this. But I have no idea what Boston College is this year. Because, like, anybody they had last year, that was good. And that was not a lot of people on a 2-10 team. It was sparingly few. But last year, hang on. Where is he? Where's our guy? Where's our guy Turbo Richard? Last year, Turbo Richard, on a 2-10 team, ran for 750 yards at 5.2 carry and scored 9 touchdowns. All right. On a, 750, all right, but averaged more than 5 yards a carry and nearly 10 touchdowns on a 2-10 team. That's hard to do. You know where he's plying his trade this year? He went from 2-10 Boston College to a team that realistically, for much of its football history, like as blah as BC is, they've been, historically have had more success than this program until extremely recently. But Turbo Richard was like, peace out, BC. I'm going to Indiana. And got paid in Indiana on the team that just won the national championship. Boston College lost their best player to Indiana. That's the world we're in right now. And there was just never a thought that something like that wouldn't happen. Like, they lost their best player to Indiana. There's never a thought it wouldn't happen. And you look at the BC roster right now, and it's just like, okay. Okay. Like, there's just not a lot. I don't know what to make of it. It's not names and whatever. There's not. Now, I still think, like, Bill O'Brien's a good football coach. Now, I don't know if he's mailing it in or whatever. He's put together, like, a decent staff of guys. Like, is Marone still there? Is Marone still being his special whatever the hell guy? Let's see. Is Doug Marone still tied in? I don't see. Is Doug not there anymore? I mean, they're literally best friends going back 8 million years. But you look at his staff that he's put together, like defensive coordinator Ted Roof. Ted Roof's been around forever. Has had a lot of success. Mike Hart, we remember Mike Hart. Mike Hart's now their running backs coach. He's got his local New England ties in play. Somebody by the name of one Tito Pasqualoni is on the staff as a defensive analyst. He's got, like, Marone. I don't know if Marone's still involved, but Marone was involved the last couple of years. They had Rob Chudzinski, who's the former Browns head coach and a longtime NFL assistant, is involved. Like, they got a lot of dudes involved in this, but I just don't know if there's any way they can succeed. Where's Doug? Where's Dougie Doug? Where is Doug Marone? Oh, alright, he went to the Patriots. I forgot about that. Doug Marone is the O-line coach for the Patriots. Okay, so that answers that. Was he there last year? Huh. I guess he was only with BC for the first year. Was Doug in the Super Bowl last year? I lost track of Doug. Doug's a hell of an O-line coach, though. Good hire by the Patriots. But BC has, like, Bill O'Brien. For BC to hire Bill O'Brien, that made a lot of, like, when they made that hire at the time, I was like, oh, look at that. Good hire. All right, BC, I see you. Maybe you care about football now. Okay, cool. It just hasn't resulted in anything. And last year was a grease fire. So, like, if they have another grease fire, because we look at Fran, right? Fran was great season, then grease fire. BC was all right, then grease fire. Both going into year 3 now. Fran's never beaten Bill. Has never beaten BC. We talk about Pitt and BC as rivals, however we're calling them. I know it's kind of nothing quite feels super rivalry-ish on the football side of things right now for a variety of reasons. I've said for many, many years, right? Like, okay, you're going to try to make anything, put BC on Thanksgiving weekend every year, and maybe it becomes something, and then they dabble with it, but it doesn't stay there every year, and then go figure what? Like, the best Thanksgiving weekend memories of late are what? The Miami game? Trill Williams' crazy play to end the Wake Forest game a few years ago? Like, none of them are against BC? or they're like coaches' final games that have already been like the memorable BC games of late that have happened on Thanksgiving weekend. At least the two that come to mind are 3 years ago after Dino had been fired, them beating BC to become bowl eligible, and then now going back more than a decade ago, Scott Schaefer's last game, or like already been fired, beat BC and got carried off the field, right, and then broke the podium. Like those are the memorable BC games on Thanksgiving. So the rivalry aspect of it, it just hasn't clicked. It just hasn't happened. And then go figure, you end up with the Miami game 2 years ago, and you wouldn't have traded that on the Thanksgiving week. I don't care what rivalry you wouldn't have traded that for. So it's like, okay. This year you got Notre Dame on a Thanksgiving weekend, which can go in diametrically different directions. Please don't be 70-7 again. We'll talk Notre Dame in our final edition of our 2 weeks previews on Wednesday. Syracuse has to beat BC this year, right? No, we'll do no wrong answers for the season on Wednesday. Like, is beating BC the most important thing of what this season is? No. But in this day and age, Diamond Ferry game. Diamond Ferry game was a Thanksgiving Saturday. San Diego Cuse. That would be the most memorable of them all. And short list of my most. The Diamond Ferry game is 100% my most favorite Syracuse football game that I did not actually see because I was calling of all things, a Syracuse at Siena basketball game that Jerry was playing in at the time. We were at whatever the arena in Albany was called at the time. Was it MVP? Was it the Times Union Center at the time? We were at whatever it was called at the time. Paulie and I were there. Who was I doing the game with? I don't even remember who I was doing the game with. But like we were getting up, and this was before, like we didn't have smartphone, like we weren't getting all these updates all the times. We weren't watching it on another screen. This was many moons ago. This was 2004. The Diamond Ferry game was happening, and our studio guy, Andy Jones, that day, who was a Syracuse grad, 2 years older than me in his own right, like he was coming out of every commercial break, like telling us something new and crazy the Diamond Ferry has done. He's like, well, Diamond intercepted a pass, he returned it for a touchdown, he did this, he did that. It was just nuts. I'm like, what is going on? Meanwhile, there's a basketball game happening, and it's like, hey, Craig Forth. But it was that is the most memorable game that I never actually saw. I love that game eternally. But Fran needs to beat BC this year, right? Yeah, it's always going to be the Nick. It is the Nick. That's why I cannot remember what it was that day. It is the Knickerbocker Arena. It's had various names since, but it is and always will be the Nick, 100%. The home of the Albany Firebirds, the Knickerbocker Arena. Shout out to Touchdown Eddie Brown. Fran's got to beat BC, though, right? Like, I don't care. Here's the thing. BC's probably going to be terrible this year. If BC is terrible this year. Now, there's a chance. Bill O'Brien, I still think Bill O'Brien, if he's got his head on straight, good coach. If BC is terrible this year, and you're playing them in the second to last weekend of the season, and let's say that, let's pick the sad version of the Syracuse football season. Let's say Angeli's hurt. Now we're in the sad version of the season. We're trying to be optimistic and whatever. Let's look sad because there's a version of the Syracuse season that goes south. Fran this year cannot have what happened last year happen again, which is to have the whole thing go off the reservation for the last month plus of the season. We can't do that again. Whatever happens this year, they need to fight this thing to the finish line. Like, that Notre Dame game cannot be hanging out there on Thanksgiving Saturday as just a death sentence. And part of that is the week before. Like, let's say the season's going wobbly. Let's say you could be 4-6 going into that game, right? With not any real likely chance of making a bowl game because it would require you upsetting Notre Dame and you're not that good at that point. Let's say you're 4-6. You need to go out. You got to win that game. I don't care if it's your backup quarterback. I don't care what the game plan is. I don't care what you throw against the wall this year. You have to go beat Boston College after losing to them 2 years in a row. You have to. You can't have the season implode again and then have part of the implosion be BC late. Because we talked about this, and BC is one of the, you lost to them twice. They're one of the coin flip games. I'm miming a coin flip again. I still don't have a coin down here. I think Syracuse is going to be, and we'll get into it on Wednesday. I think they're going to be decent this year. I don't think it's going to be a grease fire. I think the changes they have made at the coaching positions, for the most part, best I can tell, specifically Vince Karras and Juan Castillo at DC and offensive line, made sense. We'll see if it works out when they get on the field. But I think the plan by Fran there made sense. I think they're setting themselves up with Angeli's health to be okay. But if we get to the BC game, and I don't care why, if BC's bad, and what's BC's ceiling? BC's ceiling is meh. If you're Syracuse, you need to show this year that your program is at a higher floor and ceiling than Boston College. Just have to. There we are. 2 weeks preview. Part of our Nave Law 100-day countdown to the Syracuse football season. 12 days remaining till kickoff. Syracuse, Boston College, out in Chestnut Hill this year in the second to last week of the season. QR code on the screen, link in the chat. That's the second to last game. The first game of the season is New Hampshire. Make sure you are entered to win. Click now or forever hold your peace. Entered to win, and we'll draw the winner of five 50-yard line seats for Syracuse. And New Hampshire will do that 1 week from today on this very program.